Welcome to what's going to be an occasional series called Neil's Cairns. Um, in this series of videos, I'm going to take a subject, talk about something important, talk about it for approximately 30 minutes or so, probably try to keep it around 30 minutes, um, and just talk about my views, my opinions on the subject. And then it's going to be outside of wrestling, it's going to be other things going on, maybe couple of maybe be about wrestling if it's a major story, but I don't talk about real issues and real stuff and give my opinions on them. And obviously, the first one is going to be about the independence referendum. We are just about a week removed from the Scottish independence referendum. Now, obviously, as I said in my previous video, talking about, well, taking through the couple of days about the referendum, Scotland voted no. The single question ballot was: should Scotland be an independent country? Yes was 45%, no was 55%. So Scotland will remain, so far at least, part of the Union. Now, I am not going to, because there are so many, you see social medias, on your news feeds, on your timelines, so many Facebook, Twitter pages, all kind of websites now popping up asking for either a recount of the votes or a revote. And to be honest, I'm not going to like any of those Facebook pages or Twitter pages or whatever, because to be honest, I don't think we're going to get one. I don't think there will be a recount. I don't think there will be a revote, not at least immediately. Not for, I think, quite some time, and I'm talking maybe a few years, because I don't honestly think now that it's the right and proper way to go. To be honest, there have now been, obviously, amongst these pages, lots of people claiming, from both sides, in fact, I've seen it, things about voter fraud and different things that have gone on, pictures and supposed quotes from people, that the vote wasn't fair, or that the votes were not counted properly, or something to do with the votes that was the biased on one side, and that led to the result that we actually had. Now, to be honest, I'm not going to like all these Facebook pages or anything like that, because a lot of these pictures or videos, a few of them I have seen mixed up. A lot of them are rubbish ones, have been taken from other places, other countries, and claimed to be Scottish ones, including the women altering vote things or ripping up vote things. I've seen one of them videos. I saw that about a year or so ago from another election in another country, and to be honest, a lot of these pictures, they're not substantiated. There's not actual hard evidence. It's just a picture, and it's unsubstantiated, like the one from here in Dundee. And to know the truth about that picture, apparently that there were lots of ballot papers sitting on a table, and apparently a lot of people were trying to, are claiming that those were yes votes counted as no votes. What apparently from the local officials here in Dundee said that was the table. They were emptying ballot papers from the boxes. They were sitting there before they got passed to the counters to actually count and separate into the votes. And to be honest, I said it before, I think honestly that the way the voting was done was fair. I don't think there was a major voting fraud. There was, and still is, 10 votes being actually looked at in Glasgow for voter fraud, because, for impersonation. Apparently 10 people turned up in one of the polling stations, in a couple of polling stations. I'm not sure. We're not sure entire details, because the police are not obviously revealing these details, because it is an ongoing investigation. So I'm not going to say really too much about this. But there was at least some surrounding in Glasgow and the surrounding area, 10 votes where people turned up to cast their genuine votes, only to be told you've already voted where they hadn't. So again, that's still under police investigation. I'm sure So in the coming weeks, we'll find out what happened then. Now, to be honest, I'm not going to like these pages or like any of these or follow anybody or anything like that because I honestly believe that going for trying to push for a revote or a recount of the votes is not the way to go forward from now. Looking at everything that's gone on um, since this independence referendum, I think pushing this, especially pushing it on the side of claiming fraud or claiming that these votes have been interfered with or this or that, to be honest, looking at it, in my opinion, that is not the way to go forward. It is not the best way now in the situation that we are in to go forward. What I also say I hated, and thanks though to the police, the local police in Glasgow, I didn't like what happened the day of there was I think it was the 19th or the 20th. I believe it was the 19th or it certainly was the 19th or the 20th that happened. Uh, I think yeah, it must have been the 19th. Yeah, it was the 19th that this happened. The day after the voting had finished. What happened was there was a lot of yes supporters in George Square in Glasgow. Glasgow is Scotland's largest city. Now there was lots of yes campaigners actually there for many hours. There was ones there in the city in George Square all throughout the night, hearing the results, obviously hoping that there'd be a yes vote. Uh, they're just simply there voicing their opinions peacefully amongst that. And I'm not saying that just because I was a pro-yes supporter and the fact that I voted yes. I'm not being biased in any way like that because that is the truth. They were just simply there. They were just simply there, gathered together, showing which side they uh, made. Because I looked online and I could not find a single report of any of them causing trouble or anything like that. And the result, and again, I'm not saying that these were no supporters because I'll get to that in a second, but from three sides of George Square, you see George Square, it's very much a kind of an island uh, kind of place. If you've ever been to Glasgow, or you can go Google Earth, George Square. George is in the name, Square Glasgow. I'm sure you'll be able to view it from three sides during the 19th. I think it was approximately 1:30 or 1:45 because I was watching the BBC Scotland lunchtime news as it happened. They cut to the reporter there. On three sides of George Square, there was a huge load of people that entered George Square with Union Jacks and tried to cause trouble there. Now, to be honest, my opinion is that there may, and I don't know, again, I do not know these, I don't know who it was that did it. I don't know any details regarding who they were, because I'm here in Dundee. I don't know whether they were local to Glasgow. I don't know whether they'd gone to Glasgow from anywhere else. I only saw the few minutes that BBC Scotland cut to, and read some reports online. I don't know whether they were supporters of the of the No campaign or the Better Together campaign. I don't know, but certainly they attempted to cause trouble. Now, I believe this may have been people who what I call cause trouble in disguise. So that means they claim to be one side of the argument or a supporter of one person or one sports team, and you get it all the time. You see it a lot of the time. People go to an area, they try and cause trouble, and then claim, "Oh, we're Manchester United supporters, we're Chelsea supporters, or we're supporters of this, that, or other one side of the argument, a sports team, a celebrity." Well, not really a celebrity, you get it, but you know what I'm talking about. People who go cause trouble and then claim to be belonging to one particular side when they're not. So this may have been the case, and I'm pretty willing to bet this possibly was the case. They entered George Square from three sides and tried to cause trouble. Now, thankfully, thanks to the quick actions of the police, they cordoned them off. They stopped them from the two sides. From well, certainly it certainly seemed from the pictures I saw, these guys with the Union Jacks and whatever side they were supposed to be claiming to be on, were certainly the more aggressive from the pictures I saw. The police cordoned them off, stopped them, and causing any public unrest and any trouble. Thankfully, very, very quickly, the police were there very quickly. Well, there were a few members of the police there, obviously, in attempts to just be a presence, and thankfully, a lot more police turned up very quickly, and they stopped them from causing any public unrest and any public disturbance. So honestly, I think that because we've not heard anything else since, there's been no more demonstrations of that type in Glasgow or around Scotland. I truly believe they may have been people simply trying to cause trouble under hiding supposedly under a banner of one side of the argument. And I said they were not really behind one side. I think they were just simply trying to cause trouble. There was 7 arrests in total. I am not I don't know the numbers. I don't know whether it was 7 from that side only, or whether it was a combined 7. But I just know the police only said that there were 7 arrests, and thankfully the police cordoned them off. Strong police presence kept them enclosed, kept them from causing any trouble. Now, which is good. Now, obviously, Glasgow has a history, and there's a big history in Scotland of sectarianism, and obviously a lot of this has been linked to both Rangers and Celtic football clubs or soccer clubs, whatever you want to you're now. I understand that these things, the Orange Order and all this stuff, all comes from real history, real genuine things that have happened in the past. I understand that. You can Google it online. You can go you can Google it. You can actually read everything that happened, and I would suggest again, because I don't have a degree in history. I don't know exactly everything that went on. I'm not an expert. I'm not claiming to be an expert. But what I do know is there was things happened on both sides there. There was things wrongdoings and right doings on both sides. There was both sides got things wrong. Both sides behaved rightly. Both sides behaved wrongly. There's a lot of history, and I understand. I completely understand that it is actually real, genuine history, real events that happened. It is real, genuine history between people and incident. Again, I understand it's real history. These things really did take place, and that has been documented. And there's history support to show that these incidents happened. And again, I completely understand all that. But unfortunately, this sectarianism has just been it's been put up with in Scotland for far too long. And I understand that people have religious freedom, and I'm for religious freedom. You want to worship God, you want to worship Jesus, you want to worship Buddha, you want to worship whoever, whatever. If you are abiding by the laws, if you are not hurting anybody, you're not preaching hate for people because of people are just who they are, or for whatever reason, whether it's sexuality, hair color, body build, body type, their background. If you're not preaching hate or encouraging violence against people just because they are who they are, if you're not doing that sort of stuff, that's fine with me. You can take a glass cup or a wooden plank or I don't know, any iconography you want and worship that if you're not actually going and you're not preaching hatred, you're not preaching violence. If you're preaching peaceful and law-abiding stuff, I'm fine with that. You're not telling people go out there and kill others. You're not. You're preaching kindness. You're preaching. peacefulness and good nature against people, I'm fine with that. But it has just gone on too long and been accepted too long here in Scotland. Again, I understand, there's a lot of history that goes, and not just in Scotland, it all goes, that a lot of history behind the Irish Troubles between Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland, and there's hundreds and hundreds of years in history behind it. And I said, there's incidents, and wrongdoings and right doings on both sides, on every side. I understand that, and it's so complicated. I know, and I'm not dismissing it as just something that happened hundreds of years ago, because I know that it's very much prevalent still today, and um, it's it's a real thing. It's a real, genuine history that obviously has not to be forgotten about. I'm not saying simply forget about this kind of stuff. I'm not saying sweep it under the carpet. I'm certainly not saying, you know, to ignore it. Obviously that saying goes, how do you know where you're going if you don't know where you have been? I understand that, but I think, to be honest, people attempting to cause trouble and disturbance through all the sectarianism has been just accepted here in Scotland for far too long, and I think it is actually time to try and for the decent people of Scotland to actually step up and actually voice our head. It's just been accepted, it's just been recognised, it's just part of a society for far too long. Now, I have to say, there is actually a new Facebook page. I'm just mentioning it because I like this Facebook page, and it's run by a friend of mine, and I know he genuinely is for this. It's called Scotland United Against Sectarianism. Um, for Facebook.com/ Scotland Unites. It is genuinely time, and I thought this. I'm not just thinking this now. I have been thinking this for many, many years, probably my whole life. That it's time, and again, I'm not wanting to sweep this stuff under the carpet, ignore it, because I know I said there's been wrongdoings on both sides, there's been right doings on both sides, and I know it's genuine, it's real history, it's, obviously, I mean, and I'm not saying, obviously, if people hurt people, members of my family, obviously, I know what my reaction would be, and I would want things that I would want to do. I know, and it's a long history. I say not say it again. I'm not saying ignore it completely, but what I think is it is history that cannot be truly relevant to Scotland today in terms of the way that people do things. It is time to try and move on, because it's it's trying to get out of a bog or a bit of quicksand, and the sectarianism. That's what we are trying to do. We are trying to push ourselves forward as Scotland, certainly following this result, and I'll get to that in a moment, what's happening. But we really are trying to walk ourselves forward, but the sectarianism is like we have one foot still stuck in quicksand, and we need to shake it off. We need to understand it, release ourselves from it, and walk on, move forward for this. I do genuinely believe that, and I do genuinely believe we can do that. Like I said, it's been attached to the Rangers and Celtic football clubs where it really shouldn't, but I know and I understand again the histories of the two clubs, and to be honest, it's just been accepted also there by the clubs for far too long. I know they continually speak out about against it continually, and they have done for many years, but there are elements, I think, in the supporters and in the clubs that unfortunately accept it as part of the modern society where it really shouldn't be. And I do think it's time for us to try and shake it away from us, to try and step forward. And I know it's rivalry, and I'm not saying get rid of the rivalry between Rangers and Celtic, because it's going to be there as long as both clubs exist, or at least Celtic and this new Rangers exist. It's not a dig at Rangers supporters. I just honestly think it's a kind of a different club from their financial troubles, and I'm not going to go into that again. As yeah, I always meant to do another video about that, but I never got around to it I may do in the future. But it's a healthy rivalry. I mean, actually, as I record this here in Dundee, there's actually a local derby between Dundee United and Dundee Football Club happening tonight. And I believe it's a cup tie, and both. And you know, I know Dundee may not be as big, largest city as Glasgow, but we do live together. We mix together. We do not have this level of vile hatred but against each other. Family, different, lots of families, including my own, who are you know different. Who are either some may not care obviously, but some may be Rangers supporters, maybe Dundee United supporters, maybe Rangers supporters, maybe Dundee United supporters, maybe Rangers supporters, maybe Celtic supporters, maybe Dundee supporters. May support various different football sides. Here in Dundee, we don't have trouble all the time. Now that is thanks to positive ongoings by both Dundee United and Dundee, the football clubs themselves, uh, from the supporters clubs from both sides, from the fans, from the police. You know, we do generally, and as I said, I know that Dundee isn't, the city of Dundee is not as large as Glasgow, but we honestly, without the sectarianism element here in Dundee, I mean, there is occasional scuffles between idiots. You always get that, unfortunately. Certainly, you do get it now. Unfortunately, you do get that now. But honestly, there is no level of hate because on a regular basis, and hopefully tonight will be another example. There will be at least absolute minimal to no trouble between the two sets of fans. And I understand it's difficult for the police when you're trying to when you have two clubs in one city and both sides maybe need to cross over. You've got Celtic, you've got Rangers. For the Rangers fans, they may live over here. Celtic fans may live over there. So to get home, they may have to cross over each other and mix up with each other. May want to try and go and get the same local buses, etc. Here in Dundee, it really genuinely is not a problem. So sectarianism certainly, I know it's not the only part of it, but it's certainly been a major part of it for many years. Now, moving on before I end this, I'm honestly trying to keep this about 30 minutes. Moving on, where do we go from here in Scotland? Well, obviously, Alex Salmond has announced he is stepping down as the First Minister of Scotland at the Scottish National Party political conference to be started on the 13th of November. I'm not entirely sure what the makeup of that conference will be, whether he will still make the leadership speech there, or what the layout of this conference will be. Obviously, that will be decided within the next couple of weeks leading up to the conference. But he will step down at the conference. I believe they will vote for the new leader, and then the week after the SNP confirm their new leader, because the conference is only the 13th to the 15th of November. Again, I'm not entirely sure where it is. I meant to check that, but the week after, then the new First Minister of Scotland will be decided. Now, I honestly think whoever it is, and I know today, just before I did this video, Nicola Sturgeon, the second in command of the SNP, confirmed her intention to stand for the leadership of the Scottish National Party. I certainly think that she's in with a good chance of being the new SNP leader. There's a few names and possibly in the list. Now, I'll maybe give an update of that situation when the conference happens in mid-November. I'll maybe go through that and say, well, this is exactly what's happening, obviously, because the waves of the referendum will continue in Scottish politics for many months to come. I'll maybe give an update on that when they decide, because nobody else currently has thrown their hat into the ring as I speak, but said they will have to confirm over the next few days or week or so that they intend to stand for the leadership. Now, obviously, whoever has the First Minister position will have to work with Westminster on these new powers promises. Now, David Cameron appointed Lord Smith of Kelvin, who led Glasgow's staging of the Commonwealth Games, to put forward the legislation, to put together the package of new powers for the Scottish Parliament, and to ensure that all of this goes ahead. Now, obviously, this is one of the things that concerns me because, like you said, there's a general election next May. I don't know obviously there doesn't seem to be enough time enough time remaining in the Westminster government to push through these powers, which is the place that will need to be approved is Westminster, not Holyrood. The Scottish Parliament will all have to be pushed through in Westminster again, which we don't know the timeline of this, although they are expecting legislation and to be at least some legislation to be put forward by end of January. We'll have to wait and see on that, but I think it genuinely is up to the Scottish people with this political awakening, and to push. It's really up to the Scottish people and the Scottish Parliament to a degree, but I think it's up to the Scottish people, especially as said after this political awakening here in Scotland. Over over 3.6 million people voting in the Scottish independence referendum to really push the political parties in Scotland. And I have to say, it looks very much like the SNP have come out of this. The ones really that ran the Yes campaign, that really pushed for. I mean, to be honest, here in Scotland, over the years, it's been the Scottish National Party that have pushed for a Scottish Parliament and pushed for the Scottish independence referendum, and they are the party in power in Scotland at the moment. The general election for Scotland are not until a year in May, so it's next May. There'll be a year until the Scottish general elections, and I think it's really been them, along with the Scottish people, that have pushed to get Scotland into the position that we are in today. And I think it is up to the Scottish people to continually to push all of the political parties in Scotland, whether it's Labour, Conservatives, or certainly the Scottish National Party. I think they are genuinely the best party, I think, that we have at this time to push for Scotland and push for the good of Scotland, because the other parties, unfortunately, are all English-related parties. They're all Scottish versions. They claim they're not, but they are, because they were all set up from the English Parliament. So politically, you can look at it again. You can Google it online. You can look at Wikipedia and look at the history of the Scottish, a lot of the Scottish political parties, but they didn't form. The reason I know that they're really spin-offs from English parties, because they belong to the same party, and they didn't actually form until the Scottish Parliament was formed, until the devolution referendum took place in 1997, and Scotland then voted yes for a Scottish Parliament, which is obviously how we have the Scottish Parliament now. Those political parties only formed then, when the Scottish Parliament was voted for by the Scottish people. So it's obvious that they are English-related parties, and it's really the only SNP are really the only decently Scottish only, and because they are not related, they are not spin-offs, they are not any relation at all to any English or any Welsh or Northern Irish or Republic of Irish political parties. They stand alone. They are Scottish National Party. They are the only party. They're no relation to any other political party anywhere else in the world. Scottish National Party on their own. So I honestly believe that these are people, because of what they've done in the past, the pushes they've had for Scotland. I think it's up to the Scottish people to push all of these political parties, because Scottish National Party have been seeing a huge increase over this last few days. Certainly over 30,000 or so, 40,000 people joining the Scottish National Party. Membership has been unbelievable, and honestly, I think it's up to the Scottish people in these coming few months to push all of these political parties to actually put pressure on the political parties in Scotland so that they have, and they will do, if we push them enough, and I know the Scottish National Party will do it anyway, but if we push the other political parties in Scotland, we push them enough, then they will have to put the pressures on the political parties and the people in Westminster to actually push through these extra powers for the Scottish Parliament. So I honestly think that it's up to the Scottish people to keep pushing forward, to keep this momentum after the referendum going, so that we do get these eventually these new powers promised to us by all the leaders at Westminster before the referendum. It's up to the people of Scotland to continue to push, to continue to make our voices heard, and to make sure that we voice our opinion that is clearly understood by both Holyrood and Westminster in what we want, and what we want as a people, and what we want for the future of Scotland.